Hello there, my name is Adam Carruthers. This, of course, is a brand new episode of Gadget Nation. The two key words for today's show are Flocations and vaio. On to the show.
Motorola Mobility announced on Tuesday 3 new Droid Razr smartphones with 4G LTE capabilities as the company forges ahead with its smartphone strategy with commitment to the Android operating system. The 3 new devices include the Razr HD, the Razr Max HD, and the mid-range Razr M. Nokia Lumia 920 is the first Nokia Windows 8 smartphone with PureView technology. However, the phone does not share the same PureView technology used in the PureView 808. Like Lumia 800 and Lumia 900, the 920 uses an embedded battery, while the shell for Lumia 820 is removable to allow users to change the color as they please. Other new feature that is available on both Lumia 920 and Lumia 820 includes wireless charging. Consumer electronics giant Samsung unveiled the Android Jelly Bean-powered Samsung Galaxy Note 2 at IFA in Berlin earlier this week. The Note 2 is lighter and is spotted with a screen bigger than the predecessor. The utilization of the S Pen is the key proposition of the Note 2 in the market.
Sometimes when it comes to work, I have to travel quite a lot. I've been traveling a lot this year, and along the way, I've discovered many cool apps that actually help you travel. Sometimes, you want to go travel on holiday, you're searching for the best prices, the best routes, etc. There's always new apps coming up. However, there's one which is really nifty, Flocations, a new startup. We reached out to one of the co-founders, his name is Floria, to tell us more about this.
I've been traveling quite a lot over the past few years, and in some cases I was spending nights searching for flights. So I was searching which airlines were flying from the airport I was close by, searching destinations available, checking prices. And as you may know, to find prices on Expedia or other websites, you have to search for them one by one, or even on airline websites. And I also wanted to map it out with the weather to make sure that I would go somewhere sunny. I thought there should be a better way to do it, where I could see everything in one place. So I went to an event named Startup Weekend, at which I pitched this idea of a map and flight visualizer, and a few people were crazy enough to join, and we worked for it. We worked for 54 hours on it. And on the Sunday evening, we had a prototype. The room was wow. So we continued as a part-time project to start, and then everyone quit his job to join a startup incubator named JFDI in Singapore. Now we are a team of 4 co-founders, and we have graduated from the startup incubator, and we're refining the product, making it easier to use, and matching the traveler's needs. The more we're working on it, the more we see that there are a lot of things to do. It's to do such a simple interface. There is a lot of back-end work. Luckily, we have 2 great developers in the team, so they can do all the hard work. But we still have a lot, and we have limited resources. As I said, we are 4 co-founders so far. So we have to choose what we are developing first based on what will have the biggest impact for the people using our product. And the second step is that once we have this product, we need to make sure some people are using it. That means doing some marketing. For that, we just hired a community manager because we want to be very close to our users. We're trying to create a real relationship. In our case, there is a lot of work in the back end because you cannot have a user interface if you don't have any content, anything to put in. So it's a mix of both, really. If we just have a user interface, it will go nowhere. And we could see many successful websites are pretty ugly, but they are providing such a value that users don't really care. So nice interface with no value, useless. Anyway, always still better to start with the value you provide to the user. But we believe that by having additionally to that a great user interface, we can make a difference. Flocations should really help leisure travelers for their trip, for the whole experience of their trip. That means discovering places to go, knowing how to go there through flights, but it's also what will you do over there. Like you travel for the experience, for what you will do in a destination. So we have to expand beyond flight to help you find places to stay and what activity you can do in a place. At some point we should be able to answer the question, where can I go to do rock climbing, or where should I go for a romantic weekend? I'm sorry if I disappoint, it will not be very soon, like in a matter of weeks. We have ideas for mobile app, we're working on prototype, but for now we're still focusing on the web browser, on the computer, to provide an experience with a bigger screen. And I guess the mobile app will be coming early next year. So AirAsia is one of the airlines that we cover with Flocations, and AirAsia has a Chrome app, so people who go on the web using the Chrome browser can bookmark and install the AirAsia app, which allows to book more easily than on their website. And AirAsia is using this app to experiment new things, to provide new ways to their traveler to find and book. So they did a test using Flocations for the discovery application of this app. So Flocation was providing the route map of AirAsia on their Chrome app.
Are you looking for a new laptop of some sort? Is your budget between, say, 2,500 ringgit and 3,500 ringgit? Well, if it is, you're probably contemplating whether to get an Ultrabook or maybe a really decent laptop. Well, maybe this will help you settle your mind. Just take a look at what Sony have to offer. Pink. That's what I'm holding here in my hands, a brand new offering from Sony Vaio. This is certainly very striking in terms of color. Now, check this out. Brand new offering from Sony, the Vaio S. It's very pink, as you can see right here. It is certainly striking. I'm not certain that this color would be suitable to me, but hey, you never know, right? So, this is quite similar to some of the Max books which are being offered. Sony Vaio S. I'm thinking the S stands for striking, because look at it, it's all hot pink. Is that what the girls would say? I don't know about the colors, but certainly not the color choice for me, but never mind that. Now this, I'm gonna start comparing it to the MacBook Air. I mean, it's got the Core i5 Intel inside, obviously, so it's been upgraded Ivy Bridge from the previous incarnation of the Sony Vaio S. It's very nice layout, very simple, very effective, very clean. I think that's quite a key word for me. 13.3-inch display, so quite large, viewing pictures and so forth. And as you can see right here, unlike the Airs, we've got the optical drive, which I'm actually a little bit of a fan of on occasion. So other questions, how does it stack up against, say, the Samsung Series 5 Ultrabook? I mean, that's quite powerful, that's quite nifty. Price-wise, I think it's pretty good. Shade under 3,300 ringgit. So in terms of value, it certainly is there in many aspects. Now, in terms of everything else inside, it's got pretty good graphics internally. It's got everything you really need. I consider it better than the entry-level MacBook Air in terms of power, like 4 gigs of RAM and so forth. So in that aspect, it's more powerful and it's certainly great value. Also, compared to something like the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch model obviously compared to this, and the Samsung, this is the lightest of the three, so obviously that is also a big plus point. Plus video memory, dedicated 1 gig, so I'm a huge fan of that. I do watch a lot of videos and do some editing on my laptop, so it certainly puts itself right up on par with the other two models. Other cool things about this, for example, 640 GB memory certainly adds an extra plus point because I do like having a lot of memory without having to plug anything else into my laptops and so forth. I'm sure you probably have the same thing. Now, in terms of boot up time and everything, it's very similar, very comparable to an Ultrabook. Price-wise, well, the Series 5 Ultra, you can probably get a really good deal for that as well, but it's right up there. I think it all comes down, personally, to brand preference more than anything else. It's almost negligible, the difference between something like this and Samsung. I'm not really going to compare it to the Apple MacBook Pro entry-level model because I think it is a fair bit better than that unless you are a Mac enthusiast. But this is a very solid unit. Not the color though, but everything else about it, very solid. Maybe that's what the S stands for.
MediGuide is a developer of online tools to connect doctors and patients online. We have a website at www.mediguide.com where anybody can come on the site and look for a doctor. So I may be looking for a cardiologist in Malaysia, an orthopedic surgeon in Singapore, or a cardiac surgeon in India. So MediGuide allows me to look for around 5,000, 6,000 doctors around the world based on hospital, country, specialty, procedure, or condition. Now what we've done is we've taken our technology and miniaturized it into an app for the iPhone. So that's what we've developed, and we've launched the first iPhone app for Siam Darby Healthcare today. The app effectively is around Search, Find, Connect. So you use the app to find a doctor by specialty. So I'm looking for a cardiologist, I'm looking for an orthopedic surgeon, I'm looking for a urologist. So you pick by specialty, and then it gives you a list of those doctors in that specialty. Once you've selected your doctor, you click on that, and the profile of the doctor shows up with his name, where he works. It gives you a Google map, so it shows you exactly where his office is. It gives you an immediate connectivity so that you can call that doctor or the call center where he works, and then also gives you an online form so that you can make an appointment online through just 4 data points. Right now, healthcare has been extremely slow in adopting technologies that make it easier for patients to connect with doctors. Typically, we hunt around and ask people, you know, can you recommend a doctor? And then we call the hospital and wait, and then they have to too much time. So the app is effectively an easy way that someone can carry 300 doctors on their phone. We think that that's quite revolutionary in the sense that it creates immediate access to doctors when people want it and how they want it delivered to them. Because right now people are moving away from computers onto iPhones and onto tablets. So any doctor can join. Effectively, they just fill out information. The more information, the better, because that's how patients judge and evaluate doctors. They actually want to see information. They want to see a nice photo. They want to see where he was trained, what his specialties are, the conditions that he treats. That's what patients want to see. And then they want to have that accessibility to make an appointment now. And so that's what we do. Educating doctors that this is what consumers want has become the real struggle. It's not the adaptation of use the app. People will use it. It's getting doctors to become part of the system.
Avery, really, he should be a character in a James Bond movie. Actually, he shouldn't, because in a movie, James Bond villains always reveal their plans. That is something that Avery never does for me. He always throws out a surprise for Gamer Station.
Hey, Avery Score here with the Gamer Station. Now, smog, jams, and the four horsemen of the apocalypse have descended upon sunny Kuala Lumpur. That's right, Darksiders is back. And this time around in Darksiders 2, war is over. That's so last season. You're done with war. Now you're playing as Death himself. That's right, the Grim Reaper, the Taker of Souls. So you're trying to redeem your brother War, who, as you might remember from the first game, destroyed all of humanity. He's got what you might call in the business a bum rap. So you're out to clear his name and to restore humanity to its former semi-glory. Early on in the game, you get tossed into this world filled with these creatures called makers. And these makers literally forge the foundation of existence. They look a lot like dwarves, and they all have Scottish accents, at least in the English version of the game, which could be somewhat distracting, but other than that, they're pretty much your run-of-the-mill fantasy characters. They're also about 12 feet tall. No one is ever particularly keen to talk to Death. The conversations are often very tense, probably because if you had to speak to Death about mundane things, you might be a little bit nervous yourself. If you played Darksiders 1, you're going to be familiar with kind of the hodgepodge, some of many other influences type of gameplay. Essentially, you've got two main attack buttons. You've got your principal attack, which is your cool Reaper blades, which are very much God of War inspired, remind you a lot of the kind of blades that he's got attached to his forearms. And you've got your secondary strike, which could be a hammer, which could be gauntlets. It really depends on your personal choices. You get just a wealth of items over the course of the game, some of which are faster in terms of their attack speed, some of which are a lot slower but more powerful. And finding the right balance and choosing the right weapons for the job is going to be paramount for your success. The game has a lot of variety to its gameplay. If you've played the original Darksiders, again, you're familiar with kind of the puzzle solving, Prince of Persia style wall climbs, and God of War, let's say, inspired action, and all that has come together again, perhaps in a more successful blend this time around. The question is, can Darksiders 2, which bears so many influences and is obviously so inspired from a number of AAA popular games, can it be more than a sum of its parts? The short answer is yes. This is a purer, more distilled Darksiders experience. This time around, the game was even more successful than the first, and it's one of those games that you won't want to put down from start to finish. It really grabs hold of you. You're aware that you're being manipulated. As you're running across walls and jumping across obstacles, you know that this was ripped straight from Prince of Persia. When you're performing finishing moves by pressing the circle button, and ripping your enemies apart with a cool animation, you know that this was ripped directly from God of War. But at the end of the day, you love these games, and having them all mesh together in such a harmonious little blend is something that you're going to want to play. As for the overall structure of the game, it's very much Legend of Zelda. If you played the first Darksiders, or if you follow the press, you've heard the parallels to the Legend of Zelda, and it's pretty much that. You're going into a lot of dungeons, doing a dungeon crawl. At the end, you might end up with a cool item which will advance your main quest and also allow you to access previously unexplored areas of the game. The graphics of this game are clearly the weak point. The environments are often bland, models are very low poly, textures are often muddy and confused, and in general this looks very last gen. A good parallel for the graphics would be kind of like a slightly higher poly version of World of Warcraft, very much inspired from that in terms of the art design and the lighting effects. You get that kind of cartoonish fantasy feel, which means that the game is never particularly scary. Even if you're playing as Death himself with his Death's mask, it kind of looks more like Majora's Mask, as in Legend of Zelda, than anything else. In other words, not a gothic horror, kind of survival horror feel. It's a beat 'em up at its core. But unlike the first game, there's a lot less frenzied action. There are a lot of pauses in the action to solve these little puzzles, most of which aren't particularly difficult. There are some momentary stumpers that will have you running around and kind of scratching your head for maybe 5, okay, 10 minutes at the very most, but nothing particularly extraordinary that you might want to write home about. It begs the question, are these puzzles really necessary? Do they provide a nice break in pace, or because there's something that's so readily solvable, are they just kind of throwaway fodder. That's up for you to decide. I found that it sort of broke up the pacing in a good way. You know, up to you. In terms of the gameplay, it's really nothing to write home about per se in terms of the main combat. You're going to be mashing on buttons quite a lot. You can go to one of the principal characters who's like a trainer that you best in combat early on in the game and collect some new abilities to make the action more interesting. You've got your typical moves to juggle your opponents up in the air, to you know, perform a slash immediately after rolling. But in general, the gameplay is pretty much your standard strafe around the enemy, roll, 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 slash, roll, 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 slash. And one of the more disappointing things is that a lot of the boss encounters are real pushovers, perhaps easier than some of the standard enemy encounters. Once you learn the patterns of these bosses, you'll have no trouble destroying them. And at least on normal difficulty, you're not going to die a lot in this game. Dying is a pretty rare occurrence. You're surprised when it happens. You're like, oh, I can die. Falling off a chasm won't kill you either. You pretty much sprout these death wings that allow you to rise back up unhindered, pretty much with no penalty. Additionally, there's a Reaper mode where you can transform into Death's true form by pressing the L1 and R2 buttons simultaneously when your meter is full, and this allows you to wreak just ridiculous amounts of havoc on your enemies, so you want to use this judiciously. All in all, Darksiders 2 is a very competent mélange of many other genres and popular games. Again, you're going to recognize Prince of Persia, you're going to recognize God of War in these titles, and if you like those games, you're probably going to have a good experience with this one. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you're out of ideas and you've got a competent team, just copy everyone else and the result will be somewhat enjoyable. I had fun. So check out Darksiders 2, and I'll catch you next time on the Gamer Station.
You know what's come a really long way since I started doing Gadget Nation back in about 2010? Android tablets, like leaps and bounds, and the latest and greatest and most hype Android tablet has to be the offering from Android, from Google themselves. It's the Nexus 7. Hopefully, we'll have one on the show really soon. At least I hope so. In the meantime, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, full episodes and more on YouTube. My name's Adam Carruthers. Till next week.